EDU 747. My name is Ian Wagner, and I decided to do my research project on inclusion and technology. Before we get started, I just have a brief agenda, just for an overview of what I will be going through in this presentation. Slides 1 and 2 were just the opener and the agenda. Slide 3 will be the definition and some key terms with inclusion and technology. Slide 4, I'm going to give you guys a brief background of inclusion and technology. Slide 5, we'll be looking at the benefits of inclusion. Slide 6, I will talk about the types of assistive technology that are readily available to us and teachers that we know. Slide 7, I will be looking at how inclusion and technology link together. Slide 8, I have a case study for a math classroom. Slide 9, I have another case study for social studies. Slide 10, I have implications for teachers. And then finally, slide 11 will be my resources. So, I have two definitions here. One definition is just of inclusion. Inclusion is the act of including someone or something as part of a group, list, etc., or a person or thing that is included. Inclusion in education. Now, we're taking this idea of inclusion and how are we going to immerse it in education? It's the idea that everyone should be able to use the same facilities, take part in the same activities, and enjoy the same experiences, including people who have a disability or other disadvantage. Okay. Um, Here I brought up some important background information for inclusivity in the classrooms. On the left, you'll note that I have some important dates dating from 1975 to 2015. Note these are not the only dates where change has happened with inclusivity, but I thought I narrowed it down pretty good to just 5 dates. So to get the ball rolling, in 1975, Education for All Handicapped Children Act was passed. This act made free public education readily available to all children. Children with special needs were also required to be provided with the least restrictive environment possible, and this act also gave us IEPs. Now, in schools, it's very common to pull up a class roster, and the first thing that you can see is if they have an IEP or not, what's on their IEPs. Along with this, you have 504 plans. So in 1975, that basically brought things to life. In 1990, the Individuals with Disabilities Act was passed. This act replaced the previous act I just talked about in 1975, and it wasn't a drastic change, but it just modified some things from the old act, like adding traumatic brain injuries and autism to the category of disability. Uh, Moving forward, 1994, international commitment to inclusive education begins. So, as a nation, we start looking at inclusive education as a positive. Instead of uh, rooting out certain students who have special needs, we started to push forward to what makes a good inclusive learning environment. Um, the the act really emphasizes good classroom management skills and what a good environment would look like. In 2004, RTI, also known as response to intervention, became prevalent in schools to prevent academic failure. A whole system of evidence-based intervention practices was created, and to this day, we're still talking about RTI. New RTI strategies are being created every year, it seems like. And then finally, in 2015, I have the Elementary and Secondary Education Act that was passed. This act added requirements for teachers to alternate achievement standards for students with disabilities, and it also has teachers scaffold the way they do lessons. They want teachers differentiating in the classroom so that they can reach more students. So I've got some short-term and long-term benefits of inclusion. Some short-term benefits are that students have more positive relationships with students who have disabilities. Students learn how to think and learn in their own way, and there's better classroom environments that I've been talking about. These environments are just going to be better because now we have students every day interacting with one another. Um, you have students now learning how to help assist one another. And then some long-term benefits of inclusion in the classroom would be higher achievement in language and mathematics, higher graduation rates, and a greater chance to continue studying in higher education. Now I have types of assistive technology. In the middle, we'll start in the middle of the slide. I list off five types of technology that could be used in the classroom. There's so many more. Along the outsides, I have the first three, which is speech synthesis, organizational software, also known as Inspiration, and then speech to text. Uh, I'll carve through those and then talk about the last two on that list. So, speech synthesis is word recognition helps students with reading comprehension. This program works by translating text on a computer screen to computerized speech. A study showed that this type of technology works best with older elementary students because a computerized speech could be hard to comprehend at times. I have a correlating image on the right of that where a student is seeing something on the computer, it's getting read to them, now they know what is being talked about. Next one I'll talk about is the Inspiration organizational software. This software helps students who struggle with writing organize their thoughts so that they can participate in activities that require higher order thinking skills. The software creates webs or constructs maps with the students' brainstormed ideas or thoughts. Honestly, I would use this with just about anyone in my classroom, especially in early education, because if I'm looking back at myself in third, fourth, fifth grade, I was not an organized person at all. Okay. So if you can use this software to help organize students' thoughts, why wouldn't you use it? The final one is speech to text. With this software, students wear a headset and operate a computer by talking. This can eliminate barriers for students who are slower typers, have trouble putting thoughts into writing, and have language barriers. So this was another type of organizational uh, assistive technology that you could use, but it's also good for language barriers, like I mentioned, and students who might know what they're thinking, but don't know exactly how to write it out formally. Now, in the middle underneath those, I had Tact Plus and Tobii Technology. I thought these were pretty interesting to also kind of talk about. Tact Plus is a readily available Braille printer that teachers can use. I thought this was pretty interesting because haven't heard of that kind of technology before. And then Tobii Technology is a software that offers a hands-free mouse for students who have limited motor skills. So let's say a student is really struggling to type or even use a mouse. That doesn't mean that they have to sit there and not do work on technology that other students are. With Tobii technology, these students can use the mouse with their eyes and go through a program that you design for them. How does inclusion link with technology? I had a quote by Anya Evanova that I wanted to talk about. She said, despite some barriers to technology use in inclusive settings, educators should strive to overcome fears and existing challenges in an effort to provide better learning opportunities to all students, including those with unique abilities and needs. I think this is just a goal that we all need to keep in mind as future teachers. On the right side of the slide, I have 4 bits of information of how inclusion links with technology. The top one, technology like Google Classroom or email can allow for more collaboration between professionals within a school. It is important to work as a team to help students as much as possible. 2, I have technology like Tact Plus that I talked about earlier can assist both you and the students. It can help with barriers like language, sight, and hearing. Anything that you can do as a teacher to provide students with a chance for equal learning opportunities is going to make your classroom way more successful. 3, technology can keep students organized in your classroom. Software that provides organizational help can maximize students' potential in the classroom. And then 4, technology allows teachers to maximize their time in the classroom. If a good program can assist students, you can spend more time helping more students throughout the day. You don't have to allocate all of your time to a certain group of students if you have some sort of technology that will assist them. The first case study that I'm going to be looking at here is a math classroom case study. Um, in the article that I reviewed, it stated that the authors reviewed 77 different math apps that were evaluated across 50 studies, which included about 24,000 students. These studies focused on students who were within their first 3 years in school. So K through second grade, I don't think they counted preschool at all because that's optional. The criteria for the app that they focused on is that it had to have an individual focus on mathematical improvement. Students' outcomes with math problems were measured before and after the app. The overall study showed positive effects on students who used these apps, but the study narrowed down their top 23 apps. So, in their top 23 apps, on the right side, I have the effects. They listed these 23 apps off into a group of 5 general categories. The first general category is practice-based app. These apps were designed to support the acquisition of math facts and concepts through self-paced practice. The second group was game-based. This gave students the same experience as practice-based, but it also allowed for them to have this player narrative that the authors found could motivate some students to study, almost like a little competition. The third group was a constructive app. These apps were made to encourage the exploration of new math ideas and concepts. The fourth group was the productive app. These apps were designed to help students make their own content. And then the fifth group was parent-based. These apps were designed so that parents and caretakers could help their children at home on math concepts or problems. The second case study I'm going to be looking at is social studies. Uh, a little background for it was that the authors and researchers found 5 apps that could be used across all grade levels of social studies education. I'm only going to include 3 apps that they found were successful just for time reasons, but the authors used these apps in their classrooms along with other volunteer teachers who also found success. The first app I'm going to be talking about is Explain Everything. It costs $3.99. The uses for it give students, it allows teachers to present new content, reteach content, edit student work, and then allows for students to develop their own media to present content. Brief description of Explain Everything is this app turns an iPad into a whiteboard that teachers can upload content to and even have their voice play over the content. Students can access this whiteboard on virtually any type of technology. So they do not need to have a iPad or a phone. The second app I'm going to be talking about is StickPick. This one also costs around $4. The uses for it are differentiating, tracking student progress, and scaffolding questions. StickPick has it assigns students basic questions in the app, and then through Bloom's taxonomy, it automatically sorts these students in a classroom into groups. The teacher can then use this app to monitor students' results on the questions, see where each student is at throughout the year, and then also scaffold questions or use the scaffold questions that they give you for future assignments. Erasma is the final app that I'm going to be talking about. This was a free app used for presenting content to students and encouraging inquiry or discovery within the students. This app bridges the gap between the physical and virtual world. Teachers can use this to make their lessons more interesting. Teachers can add videos or pictures of an idea that they are teaching and then have an overlay in the image that explains what's going on in the image. I thought this app was definitely the most interesting because its practical uses are unmatched, in my opinion. You could have um, a gallery walk through your classroom where students are visiting different historical sites for throughout certain events in history. My second to last slide is implications for teachers. These are just some generalizations to keep in mind. Remember to keep your goals in mind when implementing any type of technology in the classroom. If you think that involving technology within a lesson will help participation, understanding, or motivation, you should try it out. Be open to trying out new technology, even if you're not already familiar with it. Uh, it's funny, I've been out of school for only 4 years, and when I came in to start doing observations and student teaching, there was so much technology that I was unfamiliar with, and I feel like an old person already. Make sure that you know the ins and outs to the technology before you have students working with it. This is very important because if you don't know how the technology works, it's likely that the students won't figure it out either, and it'll be for nothing. Another thing to keep in mind is to collaborate with others within the school to learn about other technologies that you can use. Or if you find a successful technology that works in the classroom, you can talk to other professionals about it and maybe they'll like the idea of using it too. Always keep in mind that you are trying to make your classroom as inviting and encouraging for students to succeed. And then finally, I had a quote from Donna Murphy that I just wanted us all to kind of reflect on at the end of this. And it's that other reports suggest that many students with special needs are languishing unsupported in regular classrooms with teachers who are unable or unwilling to provide an appropriate education. As a future teacher, that is the last thing I would ever want someone to write about me. I hope that everyone who's going into the teaching profession is thinking about their students and is always thinking about how they can help. This is my last slide of resources. At this point, I will stop. Thank you.